All right, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we are basically on this dua right there, okay? And this dua, well, last time, let's see the dua that we did last time. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من البخل وأعوذ بك من الجبن وأعوذ بك أن أرد إلى أرذل العمر actually, okay? And وأعوذ بك من فتنة الدنيا وعذاب القبر. Now we're doing this one. اللهم بعلمك الغيب وقدرتك على الخلق أحيني ما علمت الحياة خيرا لي وتوفني إذا علمت الوفاة خيرا لي. اللهم إني أسألك خشيتك في الغيب والشهادة وأسألك كلمة الحق في الرضا والغضب وأسألك القصد في الغنى والفقر وأسألك نعيما لا ينفد وأسألك قرة عين لا تنقطع وأسألك الرضا بعد القضاء وأسألك برد العيش بعد الموت وأسألك لذة النظر إلى وجهك والشوق إلى لقائك في غير ضراء مضرة ولا فتنة مضلة. اللهم زينا بزينة الإيمان وجعلنا هداة مهتدين. يا سلام يا سلام. Let's see. So you could see this hadith or dua was narrated.
That's so beautiful, this dua.
It's so beautiful.
Allah.
It's so beautiful. Rated by Nasa'i, Ahmad, and you could see al-Albani regarded it as Sahih. And let's see the translation right there. O Allah, by your knowledge, let's actually give you the, O Allah, by your knowledge of the unseen and your power over creation, keep me alive so as long as you know such life to be good for me, and take me if you know death to be better for me. O Allah, make me fearful of you, whether in secret or in public. And I ask you to make me true in speech or honest in speech, in times of pleasure and anger. I ask you to make me moderate in times of wealth and poverty. And I ask you for everlasting bliss and joy, which will never cease. I ask you to make me pleased with what you have decreed and for an easy life after death. I ask you for the sweetness of looking upon your face and the longing to encounter in manner which does not entail a calamity, which will bring about harm, nor a trial, which will cause deviation. O Allah, beautify us with the adornment of faith and make us of those who guide and are rightly guided. Excellent translation. Excellent translation. So let's see here. Allahumma bi'ilmika al-ghayb. So are we actually making dua by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge? Well, it's the same thing when we're talking about Allahumma inni astakhiruka bi'ilmik. Same thing when we're making dua al-istikhara. We're saying Allahumma inni astakhiruka bi'ilmik wa astaqdiruka biqudratik. Ya Allah, I ask you by the knowledge that you have, wa astaqdiruka biqudratik, and by the power I'm seeking basically answers but through your power. Okay, so certainly making the dua through the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just like bi'ilmika al-ghayb. And it's important to remember that whenever you are making a dua, you make a dua to what, well, trigger is more of something that is not good, but I'll use it in this sentence because I can't think of the right term in English. So when we say, for example, you're right now, let's say you were triggered. For example, right now, we just made the dua for Sister Huda and Suzanne to get treatment and the cure, okay? So, and let's say you all of a sudden get this inspiration to make the dua for yourself, okay? That triggered, hey, can you also include me in the dua? For example, something triggered your sentiment at that moment to make that dua for healing, for example, or it doesn't have to be a dua. Perhaps at that moment, you were probably driving, and while you were driving, you had seen, I don't know, a car flip over, and the person, they came out and nothing happened. And at that moment, you were inspired to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's magnificence. Okay. During that moment that you would get that spark, okay, here's that word. When you get that spark feeling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's magnificence, the spark of feeling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's provision, the spark of feeling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's victory, etc., that's a time to make that dua. That moment that you would get that spark, that's the moment that you basically get the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you say Allahumma bi'ilmika al-ghayb, what you're inducing is the spark to get you feeling that power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at least in his knowledge in the unseen. What is the unseen? We're talking about angels here? No. We're here talking about al-ghayb. Within this context would be that he would know the past and the future, and probably even about people and what's going to happen. Well, all these, I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but I'm really afraid. I'm not really sure, what this biopsy is going to come as a result, and it might change our life. Are you going to be living this anxiety? No. Khalas. That's it. You just take the moment to spark the relationship between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma bi'ilmika al-ghayb. Ya Allah, by the knowledge that you have about the future and about the past and about the decree and what's going to happen, wa qudratika ala al-khalq. And you were the one. Here it is. What do we bring? We're bringing that spark again. And your power over creation. In other words, you're probably feeling abused. You're probably feeling lost. You're probably feeling, hey, I'm basically helpless. Whatever it is, you're saying, قدرتك على الخلق, Ya Allah. You basically have all the knowledge. I'm hanging on to, not hanging out, but I'm hanging on to your knowledge, and I'm hanging on to your ability to create. أحيني ما علمت الحياة خيرا لي. Ya Allah, bring life to me as long as you know that life is good to me. Wait a minute. So, but I'm already living. Right. You're already living. But there's one thing, is that you can be put to death now, but you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to prolong your life if there is good to giving you more life. To prolong your life if there's good to you living longer. Okay. And also to bring in life where somebody could be living life, but they're hoping that they would die because of the calamities and the hardship that they're probably living. So it's like asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you quality of life. So not only are we talking about quantity, how long you live for, but also quality of life. وتوفني إذا علمت الوفاة خيرا لي. And make me die if you are to know, and if you had known that death was better for me. In another dua, وَاجْعَلِ الْمَوْتَ رَاحَةً لَنَا مِنْ كُلِّ شَرٍ. And let death be a comfort for us from every evil. So, وَتَوَفَّنِي إِذَا عَلِمْتَ الْوَفَاةَ خَيْرًا لِي. And bring death to me. Wait a minute. Is it permissible to even make dua to die? Let's say, for example, when we look at Sayyida Maryam, يا ليتني مت قبل هذا وكنت نسيا منسيا, she said. Ya Allah, I wish I had died before all of this. Why? She was afraid that she would be shamed. She was afraid that they would accuse her of committing an illicit act. because here she is, she's coming in with a child in her hands. Whose child is this? No one would just give you a child like that. And you're a woman, well, you must have been doing the wrong thing. She was just afraid that, well, they're not going to know that this child is a child of miracle, Isa alayhi salam. So she didn't know how to engage in responding to all of this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just directs her. What I want you to do, of course, the angel was telling her, that's it. I just want you, إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ صَوْمًا. That's all I want you to do. I want you to stay quiet. I don't want you to say a word. فَلَنْ أُكَلِّمَ الْيَوْمَ إِنسِيًّا. I don't want you to say a word, utter a word, and don't talk to anybody. Why? Because when the Lord Almighty takes or asks you to do something in particular, that's because He wants to take over. He wants to take over. And just keep that one in mind. So what happens? Sayyidah Maryam brings Prophet Isa, and they're all right there surrounding her. Who's the child in your hand? What is he doing? What's going on? And then they all then went into the final conclusion, and they just said, ما كان أبوك امرأ سوء وما كانت أمك بغية. Your mother was not of a woman that of any illicit behavior. Your father was an honorable man. What did you do? You just defamed them. You just dishonored them. وما كانت أمك بغية فأشارت إليه. She points at him. قالوا كيف نكلم من كان في المهد صبيا. We're going to speak to a child that's right there, just a baby. قال إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا. That's when he announces it. That I'm the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He basically gave me the power. Now, keeping that in mind, when you say توفني إذا علمت الوفاة خيرا لي, is it permissible for me to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, bring death to me or bring death to this person or that person? A couple things to say. Number one, in general, the sunnah is to make the dua that death would come if it is good for you. Don't make the dua in general, Ya Allah, make me die. Never make such a dua, but make the dua, توفني إذا علمت الوفاة خيرا. That's the dua. Bring death to me if you know it's better for me. What about the dua that Sayyidah Maryam had done that we talked about before? يا ليتني مت قبل هذا وكنت نسيا منسيا. Number one, the scholars responded to it that number one, that when she had made the dua, she was afraid of fitna. That's number one. Number two, they said, when we're speaking about her dua, is the sharia that she was practicing the same sharia that we're practicing? The answer is no. So she was a different faith? No. She was of the same faith, Islam, okay? But the legislature was different. The legislature contained some differences from the sharia that we practice. So when we're speaking about the sharia that probably during the time of Adam alayhi salam, yes, it does actually develop from age till age. Can we let the sharia right now develop too? No, because اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم. The ayah was revealed. Today I've perfected and completed the religion. You're not going to go and develop some more and more and more at, of course, at your own narrative and all of that. Absolutely not. So when we say توفني إذا علمت الوفاة خيرا لي, the sunnah is to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring death to you whenever it's best for you, to make death as something that is a raha, as a comfort from any evil. اللهم إني أسألك خشيتك في الغيب والشهادة. Ya Allah, I ask you. Look at this. أسألك. أسألك means I ask you. When we say I ask you, it doesn't mean as an inquiry. That means as a request. Okay. Request what? خشيتك في الغيب والشهادة. I ask you to grant me fear of you in times when I'm basically alone and whether it's in public. But here's one thing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give us the khashya. Well, remember, just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends al-nur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends guidance, He could also, that's why we would say, Allahumma ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qulubana ala dinik. What are we saying?
Ameen, ameen.
Yep, that's the dua. We would say, Ya Allah, you're the one that flips the hearts. Let our hearts be steadfast on faith. So therefore, we would make the dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would grant us al-khashya. What is al-khashya? Al-khashya
We gotta do that dua, right?
Yeah, we're going to do it, inshallah. خشيتك في الغيب والشهادة. الخشية is to have fear. Really? So why not have love? Why have fear? It's actually both. You would have deep love and strong love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that strong love, you're afraid of losing that strong love. So that's al-khashya. Okay? في الغيب. Whether this was in private or whether that was in public. في الغيب والشهادة. In private or in public. Ya Allah, grant me what would keep me in a state of khashya, in a state of faith, in a state of believing in you and fearful of going away from you. وأسألك كلمة الحق في الرضا والغضب. And I ask you to grant me the power to say the word of truth during time of content and during time of anger. So what does that mean? To say the word of truth, because it can happen that we're afraid to say the word of truth, or probably, because, and this happens a lot, of course, it's not just women, but it happens a lot. We're angry.
I just want to go in front of, these leaders and just say it. Khalas.
Khalas, you think they'll stop, Noura?
No,
I don't think they'll stop, Noura.
But I want to.
If only the world was like this. No, Noura. Certainly, you can actually say the word of truth and just tell it to them in their eyes, okay? That's one way. But you want to keep in mind, إن الله لا يزع بالسلطان ما لا يزع بالقرآن. Sometimes you just need the power, Noura. The power is not the power and the courage to just say it in their face. These people, they're so numb. They're so numb to not only recognize what you're saying, but they're so numb that they don't even see what they're doing as wrong.
No, actually, it got flipped for them.
Of course, تأخذهم العزة بالإثم. They get their pride even in the ithim, the transgression that they would be committing. Oh, وأسألك كلمة الحق في الرضا والغضب. And I ask you to grant me the ability to say the truth, whether in rida, when I'm content, when I'm fine. It's so easy to talk about, the good things, or to say the truth when you're just relaxed, in a moment of relaxation. But when during ghadab, she's angry and she'll basically go and start accusing her husband or him accusing her of, hey, you're this. And of course, what it comes, whether it's swearing or probably using words to harm the other person, you are this, and shaming the person, derogatory statements, etc. But we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if you look at this one, if you look at علمت الوفاة خيرا لي أحيني, etc. So this is the beginning of life. And then what would make life? Well, it's basically khashya would bring me life. How do I live my life? Well, you live it based on the standard of truth during rida, during a time of content, during when you're just right now You've got nothing to be afraid of. Or al-ghadab. What happens? When does al-ghadab happen? When does anger happen? Anger usually happens when we're afraid of something or when we're worried about something. So we basically go into this fight and flight. Okay. So when we're probably worried about our principles, or probably worried about our life, or probably worried about our property, or probably worried about perhaps our dignity, that's when we go into this fight and flight, because we're afraid that we're going to lose, whether it's our property, our life, our security, whatever it is. So we basically get into that, and that's a human instinct. That's the way that we would, in the beginning, we want the others. So we would, if you were to look into animals, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا طَائِرٍ يَطِيرُ بِجَنَاحَيْهِ إِلَّا أُمَمٌ أَمْثَالُكُم. Every single every single animal that walks on earth, or even a bird that glides up in the skies, they're all the same, coming with the same pattern as you. So what is that supposed to tell us? When you look at animals, for example, studying animal behavior, we can see through it how we as humans have similar behaviors. When we're angry, our voices would go up, and here it is, we're trying to get the person afraid. Trying to get the person afraid by raising our voices, by probably maybe showing signs of anger, showing signs that I'm ready to hit, I'm ready to attack, I'm ready to do this, and probably, our even our body position changes. If we're sitting down, we get up, and what happens? We're showing that we are in a flight mode, that fight and flight. We're letting the first thing is to let the person recognize that, and that's why they'll be flipping the tables or throwing plates and all of that. It's like, you know what? I don't care about anything right now. And of course, the Prophet ﷺ had taught that Sahabi that came to him, and he said, "Awsini, give me a wasiyah, give me something that I have to take seriously." And he said, "La taghdab, don't get angry." And that's to tell us that claiming that it's beyond our capacity and that I didn't mean to do that, the answer is that's not quite true. Because the evidence, when you say la taghdab, that basically gives the inference that it is within our area of taklif, within our area of accountability. If it's within our area of accountability, that means it's within our area of power, within our area of control to do or not to do. So when we're asking to say the word of truth, fil rida wal ghadab, it's basically telling us that mannerism that you want to engage in after recognizing and being thankful and recognizing the blessings of your life, and recognizing that the foundation that you want to live in your spirituality is that khashya, and I want you to live that mannerism. It starts where? To say the word of truth. Once you say the word of truth, then that will take you. وَأَسْأَلُكَ الْقَصْدَ فِي الْغِنَى وَالْفَقْرِ. Now, is that going to a different thing? No, it's not. It's within the same area. But I want you to look at this one. This is creating an identity. Every identity starts with recognizing aqidah, then living al-aqidah, then having that commitment in that principle of that aqidah, and then living in relationship to the orbits that surround that life that you're living, whether we're speaking about money, or whether we're speaking about the different things that please you, or whether we're speaking about things unexpectedly changing in your life, or whether we're speaking about you recognizing after that there's an ending to your life. Then you're making the dua in the afterlife. What do you want? Well, I want to be able to see you. I want to be able to be happy to see your face, etc. So you would then conclude the dua. Allahumma zayyinna bizinat al-iman. Ya Allah, beautify us with the beauty of Iman. But here, I'm just giving you that overview. أسألك القصد في الغنى والفقر. What is القصد? القصد is moderation. Ya Allah, yes, I want my manners to be a person that says the truth regardless of the psychological situation that they're in. And I ask you to give me moderation in spending, moderation in dealing with the world around me. في الغنى والفقر. Whether I was in a state of having the money, I'm rich, millionaire, whatever it is, or whether I was in poverty. But wait a minute, why al-qasd in poverty? Anyways, the person doesn't have anything. What moderation are we going to talk about? So moderation, whether in ghina, in other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Eat and drink, وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not. وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا, and eat and drink, وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا, and don't overspend. Why not overspend? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was telling us that moderation in eating, drinking, is what will affect your heart, what will affect your spirituality. So when we're speaking about the Prophet ﷺ, I forgot who, but there's this Japanese scientist that actually got a Nobel Prize on one of the cures to different illnesses. I believe it was cancer cells or something, is fasting. Why? Because he did this study, and based on that study, when a person goes hungry, the body starts these cells, they start looking for something to feed on, so they feed on the body, and then they end up eating basically the cells that are even harming the body. So to give that cure, look at that. I mean, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, he had mentioned this way before the Japanese
Can you
scientists.
share that in the Gems of Light
Sure,
group?
inshallah, I will.
Yeah,
Inshallah, I
Jazakallah
will.
khair.
وأسألك نعيما لا ينفد, and I ask you to give me na'im. What is a na'im? And na'im is basically a blessing. I ask you to give me a blessing that would never end, whether the blessing in good health, or whether the blessing in having good children, or whether the blessing in having a nice home, a nice car, all of that. So we're basically asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us in na'im. Not only, yes, we're right there doing that moderation during when we're rich, and of course, in poverty, we're looking in poverty, yes, even if you basically don't have much, but you are doing the right. Al-qasd is not only reducing the amount, but is also making the right money management. Okay, that's al-qasd. Al-qasd can mean a certain limited amount, moderation, in moderation, and it could also mean in terms of money management, that I am capable of doing that money management. That's al-qasd. Okay. وَأَسْأَلُكَ نَعِيمًا لَا يَنْفَدُ, and I would ask you to give me the blessings that would never end. Ameen. وَأَسْأَلُكَ قُرَّةَ عَيْنٍ لَا تَنْقَطِعُ. This was quite interesting. I ask you قُرَّةَ عَيْن. What is a قُرَّةَ الْعَيْن? When you are happy, according to the ahadith, the first thing, and the thing that really shows your happiness is really in your eyes. Just like when you are sad, you cry. When you are happy, we usually think of the mouth giving a smile, but you're looking at the Quran and Sunnah, that qurrat al-ayn, that the most important sign of happiness is not the mouth we can fake a smile. We can fake a smile. You could easily fake a smile, and by stretching perhaps the muscles in your jaw to make a smile. But قرة العين, you cannot fake happiness on your eyes. You could see the eyes themselves. That would be the area that basically shows happiness or true happiness or sadness. Eyes crying, all right? Or probably sometimes even when we're talking about sadness, if the person is crying and they're shedding tears, they're still okay. But if they're crying and no tears are coming down, they're not okay. They're not okay at all. And that's the hardest type of tears, is that when you are crying but nothing's coming down. جفت الدمع. That's what we would say in Arabic. جفت الدمع. The eyes are dry of tears now. Okay, so what is قرة العين? قرة العين is anything that brings happiness to you. أسألك قرة عين لا تنقطع. And I ask you to grant me something that makes my eyes thrilled with happiness and make it never end. Whether it's in marrying a husband that you love, or perhaps children that are pious, or maybe a house that you just enjoy staying in, or maybe a car that's functioning beautifully with you, or maybe a garment that's so comfortable and you just feel so good in it, or maybe food that every time you eat it, it just brings joy to you. Ask me about that. وأسألك الرضا بعد القضاء. And I ask you to give me that content feeling بعد القضاء, after a decree. What does that mean? You know, you can have sabr and you can have rida. What's the difference? What is al-qada first? Al-qada is when there is any decree. Maybe your child getting ill, you getting ill, you losing your job, you losing a loved one, whatever it is, okay? That's qada. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed a matter. But then you can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as'aluka sabr, maybe? Ya Allah, I ask you to grant me patience. But being patient, that would mean I'm feeling the pain. I'm trying to endure it. I'm trying to go over it, but the pain is still there. Yes, what does فصبر جميل? الصبر الجميل would be beautiful patience. Like what? Well, let's say, for example, you get a flat tire. You could probably use a word because you're angry and probably swear at things or etc. Or you could probably لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. Your child potty training and they created a mess and they made a huge mess. You could be getting angry and like it's the end of the world, or you're لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله, or probably keeping your cool and trying to just get things cleared up and cleaned until this baby or this kid, this toddler is basically clean and figuring this out. Or you could, same thing with your husband. He's probably, hey, is asking you to do.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Noor.
So is it called beautiful patience because you see having the sabr as beautiful?
No, it's called beautiful patience because you can have patience, Noura. It's like something happened and you're like just enduring, and basically, in slang we say suck it up, right? You sucked up the situation.
Yeah, but why is it called beautiful?
I'm getting there, Noura.
Oh, sorry.
So the person sucked up the pain because they had no other choice. Okay, but beautiful patience is that, no, I didn't just suck it up, but I actually gave a beautiful response. So for
Oh,
example,
subhanallah.
I reacted in a beautiful way. So
Does
let's just give an example. This child is getting potty trained and then basically did his accident in the wrong place. Okay. You could just, here's the patience. You cleaned it up and you're like, oh my God, couldn't you figure it out? Oh my God, I'm sick and tired of this. And you're basically yelling. Or you could say, all right, now we did this accident right now, but I'm going to show you how to do it there. And if you do it there, I'll give you a prize. Here's the prize. I don't know. Here's the prize chart or whatever it is. And here's what I'm going to give you. Probably, I don't know, a Jolly Rancher every time you do it here. Okay. And here we go. What did you do? You just did a beautiful patience. You presented beautiful patience and not reacted in a way that, okay, you hated what you're doing. Why is this happening? But no, you're actually having the beautiful way in responding to perhaps the harm that you're probably facing as a woman, as a mother, whatever it is. Okay. So
does
when
it
you're
mean, sorry,
Mhm.
does it mean adab with qada illah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what it is. It's basically al-adab. It's basically the mannerisms that you're going to be embracing and you're going to be basically maintaining during that moment when things just don't go as you had expected. When they don't go as you had expected, but you are reacting in a beautiful way. You're being calm, you're trying to contain everything, you're trying to fix everything, you're trying to put things in a way. Well, irrida, on the other hand, is a higher level than sabrun jameel. What's the difference? Is sabr al-jameel, you're bringing in a good, you're still on the inside probably struggling, but you're behaving in a good way, okay? Or reacting in a good way. But in terms of الرضا, no, it's going even higher. What is الرضا? الرضا is to be content. I'm happy about it. And I've seen that in Gaza, man. That's unbelievable. These women, it's like, it's like, Ya Allah, radina, radina, radina. It's so easy to actually say radina, radina in a situation when everything's probably just easy, but to say rida when you had lost your 4 children, or probably when you had, gone through some hardship and harm and all of that, but you're content. So what does it mean to be content anyways? To be happy. To be content is to be happy. To be living in
Having
rida.
the sakina, right?
Absolutely. Irrida is to live where you are not seeing this as a calamity, but you're seeing it from a different angle. And that is that you're seeing it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not do any harm, and that inna ma'al usri yusra. There's going to be 2 good things coming in. Yes, this is a calamity, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring you 2 good things. That's why the Sahaba and the Salihin, they used to say that they were not afraid of a calamity happening, but they would be afraid of ease, because they would know that if it's all easy, that means there's something after it coming. But if it's all hard, that means there are 2 eases coming. لا يغلب عسرا يسرين. The Prophet ﷺ, in the hadith, he said, no calamity overcomes 2 eases. In other words, 2 eases would be the ones to basically come out and result. So when we
MashaAllah,
say
MashaAllah.
الرضا بعد القضاء, we're saying, Ya Allah, let me even be happy and be pleased with whatever that probably had been decreed on me. Let me not just, endure the pain, but let me make it as a place of gain. Gain in faith, gain in power, gain in commitment, gain in perseverance, whatever it is. That's الرضا بعد القضاء. وأسألك برد العيش بعد الموت. أسألك برد العيش بعد الموت. After getting death, I ask you to give me a cool life. Cool not to mean, cool meaning in the in the slang cool. No, cool meaning bard. البرد is basically something that's not hot. Okay, so in other words, wanting something that is breezy, something that is away from hellfire, something that is a life away from any torment. Okay. وأسألك لذة النظر إلى وجهك والشوق إلى لقائك. And I ask you to give me the joy. اللذة is the joy. النظر is to see your face. Give me the joy in seeing your face. والشوق إلى لقائك. And to have the longing. How do they translate this one? Let's see. Here we go. Easy. I ask you for the sweetness of looking upon your face and longing to encounter you in manner which does not entail a calamity. That's exactly right. Okay. أسألك النظر إلى والشوق إلى لقائك. And I ask you to grant me longing to meeting you في غير ضراء مضرة. في غير ضراء مضرة, in not a trial. So I'm meeting you, but not in something that I would be questioned about, held accountable for, or even probably a trial that would put me in this delusion or anything like that. Ya Allah, keep that away from us. Allahumma zayyinna bizinat al-iman. To conclude, Ya Allah, beautify us with the beauty of Iman. Wait, how do you beautify a person with the beauty of Iman? Does that even make sense? How do you beautify the person with the beauty of Iman? That's what would take us to Surah Al-Hujurat. Let's go to Surah Al-Hujurat really quick, because in order to answer that question, how do you beautify a person? Like you would think of beautification involving appearance. So how does this beautification actually happen? So that's what I want to take you to. So when you look at Surah Al-Hujurat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is it Surah Al-Hujurat that I'm talking about? Hujurat, or yeah, I think it is. Here we go. This is it. واعلموا أن فيكم رسول الله لو يطيعكم في كثير من الأمر لعنتم ولكن الله حبب إليكم الإيمان وزينه في قلوبكم وكره إليكم الكفر والفسوق والعصيان أولئك هم الراشدون. So here's زينه في قلوبكم. That's the key word. That's why I brought you to this ayah. Let's see, what does this surah, this is Surah Al-Hujurat, like you could see. Here we go. Okay, what does it say? وَاعْلَمُوا, and know that the Prophet is amongst you. If you were to obey you in all the matters, you would have found struggle. But here's the key. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ حَبَّبَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْإِيمَانِ. But your Lord Almighty had made faith lovable to you. This is talking about the level of Islam. زَيَّنَهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ, and beautified it in your hearts. And that's the level of Iman. وَكَرَّهَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْكُفْرَ وَالْفُسُوقَ وَالْعِصْيَانَ, and made disbelief, sin. Well, this is more, fusuq would be public sin, major sin, or insisting on sin. Al-isyan would be basically whether it's a minor sin or whether it's a sin that you would do, let's call it, just at different times and not necessarily insisting. أولئك هم الراشدون. Those would be the people that are mature in their faith, that are guided in their faith. And that's فضلا من الله ونعمة. And that's basically the blessing, that's the best grant that you could get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahu alimun hakim. I want to look at this one, فضلا من الله ونعمة, and I want to look at how this is talking about زَيَّنَهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ, etc. And you could see this du'a is presenting all those different things right there, and presenting all those different things on how that relates to zinatul iman. What is a zina? Zina is different than zina. Zina is adultery and fornication, okay? That's different. This is zina, okay? Zina is basically beautification. It's basically an ornament, okay? So what you're saying, you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let faith be your ornament. How? You would start out with loving faith. Then you would see when if you're loving faith, it's basically what you adore. It's what beautifies your heart. It's what makes your heart beautiful. And then your identity as a result, that faith is right now deep in you. That's when كره إليكم الكفر والفسوق والعصيان. That's when you would hate to be among the disbelievers, hate to be among those sinners, and would basically be amongst the Rashidin, amongst the guided ones. And that's the best blessing right there. So you would say, Ya Allah, to conclude the dua, Allahumma zayyinna bi zinatil iman wa ja'alna hudatan muhtadin, and make us hudat, make us guided. Muhtadin would basically be amongst the guided. Muhtadin, in other words, muhtadin included within those that were guided. Okay, so we're hudatan muhtadin. Al-huda, that we're basically right there described as we're guided. Muhtadin, we're continuously living that guidance. Okay, so we're going to be reading this dua and 3 times, inshallah, and whoever wants to read it can, inshallah, read it, and we'll be ending for
Yes,
today.
why would we not want to? Subhanallah.
Exactly, who would not want to? Allahumma bi'ilmika al-ghayb wa qudratika ala al-khalq. اللهم بعلمك الغيب وقدرتك على الخلق. اللهم بعلمك الغيب وقدرتك على الخلق. أحيني ما علمت الحياة خيرا لي. أحيني ما علمت الحياة خيرا لي. أحيني ما علمت الحياة خيرا لي. وتوفني إذا علمت الوفاة خيرا لي. وتوفني إذا علمت الوفاة خيرا لي. وتوفني إذا علمت الوفاة خيرا لي. اللهم إني أسألك خشيتك في الغيب والشهادة. اللهم إني أسألك خشيتك في الغيب والشهادة. اللهم إني أسألك خشيتك في الغيب والشهادة. وأسألك كلمة الحق في الرضا والغضب. وأسألك كلمة الحق في الرضا والغضب. وأسألك كلمة الحق في الرضا والغضب. وأسألك القصد في الغنى والفقر. وأسألك القصد في الغنى والفقر. وأسألك القصد في الغنى والفقر. وأسألك نعيما لا ينفد. وأسألك نعيما لا ينفد. وأسألك نعيما لا ينفد. وأسألك قرة عين لا تنقطع. وأسألك قرة عين لا تنقطع. وأسألك قرة عين لا تنقطع. وأسألك الرضا بعد القضاء. وأسألك الرضا بعد القضاء. وأسألك الرضا بعد القضاء. وأسألك برد العيش بعد الموت. وأسألك برد العيش بعد الموت. وأسألك برد العيش بعد الموت. وأسألك لذة النظر إلى وجهك. وأسألك لذة النظر إلى وجهك. وأسألك لذة النظر إلى وجهك والشوق إلى لقائك والشوق إلى لقائك، والشوق إلى لقائك في غير ضراء مضرة، في غير ضراء مضرة ولا فتنة مضلة، ولا فتنة مضلة. اللهم زينا بزينة الإيمان، اللهم زينا بزينة الإيمان، اللهم زينا بزينة الإيمان، وجعلنا هداة مهتدين، وجعلنا هداة مهتدين، وجعلنا هداة مهتدين، وجعلنا هداة مهتدين. This is it. If anybody wants to read this, inshallah, before we sign off, go ahead. And if you want, we'll stop the recording.